Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're exploring conversational intelligence with a tool called Recordia. Now, before you think we're just talking about recording calls. Let me assure you this goes way beyond simple transcription.
It really does.
We're talking about uncovering those hidden gems,
hmm
buried within conversations, subtle cues, emotional undercurrents, even linguistic quirks. Think of it as like digging for gold
Hmm.
in everyday conversation.
Yeah, like there's so much that we miss when we just focus on the surface level of what's being said, right?
Exactly. And Recordia's website, it describes itself as this AI-powered detective for your calls, your emails, your video chats. So our mission today is to unearth the true potential of this technology. How can it be used beyond the obvious? What unexpected treasures can we unearth from our conversations?
Well, and I think what's really captivating about Recordia is its ability to go beyond simply converting speech to text. It delves into the nuances, the emotional landscape of conversations. It's like having an emotional intelligence booster
Mhm.
built into your communication channels.
It's fascinating, right? They even talk about detecting things like speech rate and tone, even differentiating between Spanish dialects. It makes you wonder, what secrets are hiding in plain sight within our everyday conversations?
Right. I mean, imagine this. A customer calls in, and while their words might seem polite, Recordia detects a tremor of frustration in their voice, a subtle shift in tone. And this allows for proactive intervention, addressing the customer's concerns before they even articulate them. That's powerful.
That's incredible. It's like having a sixth sense for understanding what your customers are really feeling.
Exactly. And it's not just about emotion detection. One of the key applications Recordia highlights is churn prediction.
Okay, so instead of relying on traditional metrics like past purchases or demographics, Recordia analyzes conversations for early warning signs of a customer who might be about to jump ship.
Precisely. Think about it. What if you could analyze customer service calls for shifts in sentiment, changes in word choice, or even an increase in the use of hesitant language? These could be telltale signs of a customer on the verge of leaving.
So we're talking about preventing churn before it even happens. That's a game changer for businesses. But it does make you think, how does this impact the employees on the other side of those conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a really important one to consider. Because on one hand, you have this incredible potential to improve efficiency,
Hmm.
to identify problems before they escalate. But on the other hand, there's always the risk of creating an environment where employees feel like they're constantly being watched and every word is being
It's a
scrutinized.
fine line, isn't it?
It really is. And it's something that companies need to be very mindful of as they start to implement these kinds of technologies.
Absolutely. So how do we strike that balance then between leveraging these insights and ensuring that employees still feel valued and respected?
Well, I think transparency is key. Being upfront with employees about how this technology is being used
Hmm.
and what the goals are. And it's not just about being transparent, it's also about involving employees in the process, getting
Hmm.
their feedback,
Yeah.
and making sure that they understand how this technology can actually benefit them as well.
So it's not just about monitoring employees.
Yeah.
It's about empowering them as well.
Exactly. Because ultimately, when employees feel valued and respected, they're going to be more engaged, more productive, and more likely to provide excellent customer service.
That makes sense. But let's shift gears a bit and
Yeah.
talk about some of the specific features that Recordia offers. Because one thing that really jumped out at me
hmm
was their emphasis on security and privacy.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that's incredibly important in this day and age, especially when you're dealing with sensitive customer data.
Right. They specifically mentioned PCI DSS compliance on their website. Can you explain what that is and why it matters?
Sure. PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It's essentially a set of security standards that are designed to protect cardholder data.
Yeah.
So if a company is PCI DSS compliant, it means that they're following these standards to ensure that their customers' credit card information is safe.
So that's a good sign then. If a company like Recordia is taking those kinds of security measures seriously,
Definitely. It shows that they understand the importance of data privacy and that they're committed to protecting their customers' information.
now, beyond just the security aspect, what are some of the other features of Recordia that you find particularly interesting or innovative?
Well, one thing that really impressed me is their focus on not just transcribing speech to text, but actually analyzing the content of those conversations. So, for example, they can identify key topics that are being discussed. They can track sentiment over the course of a conversation, and they can even identify specific keywords or phrases that are being used.
So it's like having a team of analysts listening in on every call.
Exactly, but instead of having to manually listen to hours of recordings, you can get all of these insights automatically and in real time.
That's pretty amazing, and I imagine it could be incredibly valuable for businesses.
Absolutely. I mean, think about all the different ways that businesses could use this kind of information. For example, they could use it to improve their sales processes, to identify areas where their customer service is falling short, or even to track the effectiveness of their marketing campaigns.
It's like having a window into the minds of your customers.
Exactly.
So we've talked a bit about the what of Recordia, features it offers and the problems it solves, but I'm curious, what do you see as the so what here? What's the bigger picture in terms of how this kind of technology could change the way we communicate?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that we're only just beginning to explore. But I believe that conversational intelligence has the potential to revolutionize the way we interact with each other and with the world around us.
How so?
Well, for one thing, I think it could help us to become better communicators by understanding the nuances of language and the ways in which our words can be interpreted. We can learn to communicate more effectively and to build stronger relationships.
That makes sense.
And it's not just about interpersonal communication. I think conversational intelligence could also have a profound impact on the way we interact with technology. As our devices become more sophisticated and more capable of understanding natural language, we'll need to develop new ways of communicating with them. And I believe that conversational intelligence will be key to unlocking the full potential of these technologies.
So we're talking about a future where we can talk to our devices in the same way that we talk to each other.
Exactly. And that's an incredibly exciting prospect because it means that technology will become more intuitive, more accessible, and more integrated into our lives.
I'm definitely intrigued. But before we get too carried away with visions of the future, I want to bring us back to the present and talk about some of the challenges that come with implementing conversational intelligence.
Sure.
Because it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some legitimate concerns about privacy, about bias in AI, and about the potential for this technology to be used for nefarious purposes.
You're absolutely right. And these are all issues that we need to be thinking about carefully. As with any new technology, there's always the potential for it to be misused.
So how do we mitigate those risks?
Well, I think it starts with education. We need to make sure that people understand how this technology works and the potential risks that are involved. We also need to have strong regulations in place to prevent the misuse of this technology.
So it's a shared responsibility then.
Exactly. It's going to take a collaborative effort from policymakers, from tech companies, and from the public to ensure that conversational intelligence is used for good.
Well said. And I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our exploration of conversational intelligence.
I agree. This is a topic that we're going to be talking about for years to come.
So be sure to join us again next time as we continue to delve into the fascinating world of conversational intelligence. And until then, keep those conversations flowing.
It's a tough one, right? Finding that balance between, using this tech to its full potential, but also making sure that we're not, creating this environment where people feel like they're always walking on eggshells.
Yeah, like Big Brother's listening to every word.
Exactly.
And speaking of balancing acts, they mentioned PCI DSS compliance on their website.
Right.
Which I have to admit I had to look that one up because I wasn't entirely sure what it meant.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But
Right.
basically, it's all about data security, making sure that sensitive information like credit card numbers is being handled properly.
So it's good to know that they're taking that seriously.
Absolutely. Especially these days when data breaches are becoming more and more common.
For sure. But let's be honest. There are a ton of speech-to-text tools out there already.
Oh, yeah, the market is flooded with them.
So what makes Recordia stand out from the crowd? What's their unique selling point?
Well, I think one of the things that really sets them apart is their focus on nuance. They're not just trying to transcribe words. They're trying to understand the meaning behind those words.
Okay, I can see how that would be important.
It's not just what you say. It's how you say it right.
Exactly.
And Recordia seems to be really good at picking up on those subtle cues.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for example, they mention on their website that they can differentiate between different Spanish dialects.
Really?
Yeah. So they can tell if someone is from Spain or Mexico or Argentina just based on their voice.
Wow, that's impressive.
I know, right? It's like they have a team of linguistic experts on staff, but it's all done through AI.
That's amazing. And I imagine that kind of granular detail could be incredibly valuable for businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. If you're a global company and you're dealing with customers from all over the world, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to route those customers to agents who not only speak their language, but who also understand their specific dialect and cultural nuances?
That would be a game changer for customer service.
Exactly.
And it's not just about customer service either.
Right.
They list a whole bunch of other applications on their site, things like sales analysis, market research,
Yeah, they even mention debt recovery.
which I guess makes sense.
If you can analyze someone's tone of voice, you can get a pretty good idea of how likely they are to pay up.
True.
Yeah.
So it seems like the potential applications for this technology are pretty vast.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we're only just scratching the surface.
Okay, so we've talked about the what. Now let's talk about the so what.
Okay.
What's the bigger picture here? How could this technology change the way we communicate?
Well, I think one of the most exciting possibilities is that it could help us to become more aware of our own communication patterns.
No, so.
Well, if you're constantly getting feedback on your tone of voice,
Yeah.
your word choice,
Yeah.
your communication style, you're going to start to see those patterns emerge.
And that could be really valuable.
Yeah. Right. Because it could help you to identify areas where you could improve your communication skills, which could benefit you in all areas of your life.
I like it.
And it's not just about self-improvement either. I think conversational intelligence could also help us to build stronger relationships with others.
In what way?
Well, if you're able to understand the nuances of someone's communication style, you're going to be able to communicate with them more effectively. You're going to be able to build rapport more easily. And you're going to be less likely to misinterpret what they're saying.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So we're talking about using technology to actually improve human connection.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so.
But of course, with any new technology, there are always going to be some challenges.
That's true.
And I think one of the biggest challenges with conversational intelligence is going to be ensuring that it's used ethically.
Absolutely.
Because as we've already discussed, this technology has the potential to be incredibly invasive.
Yeah, it's like giving someone the ability to read your mind.
In ways,
So it's essential that we establish clear, ethical guidelines for its use.
I agree. But how do we do that? Who decides what those guidelines should be?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. It's going to require a collaborative effort from policymakers, from tech companies, and from the public to figure out how to balance the potential benefits of this technology with the potential risks.
It sounds like a tall order.
It is. But I'm optimistic. I think that if we can have these conversations openly and honestly, we can find a way to harness the power of conversational intelligence for good.
I hope you're right. And on that note, I think it's time to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into the world of conversational intelligence. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone. So, we've been talking a lot about the kind of like business applications of this technology, but I think it's also important to consider the broader societal implications.
Like, what do you have in mind?
Well, think about it. What happens when we live in a world where everything we say, every conversation we have, could potentially be analyzed and scrutinized?
It's a bit Orwellian, isn't
It
it?
is a little bit. And it raises all sorts of questions about privacy, about free speech, about the very nature of human interaction.
And what about the potential for bias? I mean, we've already seen examples of AI systems that perpetuate existing biases. So how do we ensure that conversational intelligence doesn't just amplify those biases?
That's a huge concern, and it's something that researchers and developers are actively working on. One approach is to make sure that the data sets used to train these AI systems are as diverse and representative as possible.
That makes sense.
Because if the AI is only exposed to a narrow slice of humanity, it's going to reflect those biases back to us.
Right. So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to develop and use it.
Exactly. Well said. But, despite all of these challenges, I'm still incredibly optimistic about the future of conversational intelligence.
Really? Why is it?
Because I think it has the potential to unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves and each other. Think about it. For centuries, we've been trying to understand the complexities of human communication. And now, for the first time,
Wow.
we have the tools to actually do that.
It's like we're finally starting to crack the code.
Exactly.
And that's incredibly exciting.
It is. But it also comes with a responsibility to use this technology wisely, ethically, and for the betterment of humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Uh-huh.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
Likewise. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Oh, do tell.
We've talked a lot about the future of conversational intelligence. But what about the present? What can we do today to become more aware of our own communication patterns and to start using this technology to our advantage?
I love that.
So here's a challenge for everyone listening.
Okay, I'm game.
Pay attention to your conversations today. Notice the nuances of how you speak and how others respond.
It's like being a detective in your own life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And who knows? You might just uncover some hidden gems that you never knew existed.
I'm in.
Awesome. And on that note, we'll let you all get back to your regularly scheduled conversations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those conversations flowing.